Mick on behalf of Solidarity.
Tánaiste, Ukraine's agony continues. 1 million refugees, thousands of civilians killed, cities, homes, healthcare facilities bombed to smithereens. But 7 days after the Russian tanks began to roll across the border, Ukraine remains unconquered and the capital holds out. Amidst the horror of Putin's war, two key positives shine out: the resistance of the Ukrainian people and the Russian anti-war movement. Again and again, history shows that people power holds the key to ending war and dictatorship. The Ceausescus were overthrown, not by NATO, but by a mass uprising of the Romanian people. The other Stalinist dictatorships were not ended by tanks, but by the masses. The beginning of the end of World War I were the strikes and protests on the streets of Russia, which overthrew the Tsar and put capitalism into the dock. Tánaiste, next week the Irish state will send representatives to Versailles for an informal European Council hosted by President Macron. The question of building a European military machine is expected to dominate proceedings. President Macron's views are well known in this. He has said, "We will not protect Europeans if we do not decide to have a true European army." I suspect he will make this point more forcefully next week. Tánaiste, you told RTE News this week that you think Ireland needs to go deeper on the question of European military cooperation, needs to increase military spending, and express the wish of opening up a debate on such issues. The socialist left looks forward to engaging with you and others in this debate. So I will make a few points in the time remaining to me. First of all, I would make the overarching point that the history of Europe shows that dividing the continent into armed camps does not lead to peace. If you go to Versailles next week, take a trip out to the green fields of France and you'll see what I mean. Second, I would say that Ireland won her independence by way of a struggle against a great imperial power in the 20th century, and that Ireland should not now align with the ruling classes of France, Germany and elsewhere who seek to make Europe a military power in the 21st. We would oppose any major increase in Ireland's military spending. One of the three options in the recent Defence Forces report was to increase the military spend from $1 billion a year to $3 billion. We think that the vast bulk of that money should be spent on housing, health and childcare and the like. We think the majority of people in this country will agree with us on that. We are in favour of spending to end the scourge of low pay in our Defence Forces. In conclusion, I would like to call again on all people, especially young people, to come out onto the streets to say no to war and to show solidarity with and to encourage the two key forces who hold the key to progress here: the brave anti-war protesters on the streets of Russia and, crucially, the heroic ordinary people of Ukraine in their resistance.
Thanks very much, Deputy. And I want to echo your remarks on two accounts and agree with you on at least two accounts. One, we all admire the bravery of the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian people who are resisting this attack and resisting an attempt to take over and occupy their country. Even in a city like Kharkiv, for example, near the Russian border, where most people are Russian speakers and where there is in many ways a dual identity, I think Putin has made a big mistake. If anything, he's cemented and strengthened the Ukrainian national identity, and Russian speakers, people who feel perhaps a little Russian and a little Ukrainian, are now feeling more Russian today, or more Ukrainian today rather, and are pushing back in that city against the Russian invasion. And what that says to me is that Ukrainians and Russians alike want to live in a democracy and are willing to fight for it as they are now. And I have immense admiration for those Russians who are attending protests in St. Petersburg, in Moscow and in other cities, saying that this is not being done in their name. It's a very brave person that protests on the streets of St. Petersburg, in Nevsky Prospect or in Red Square, and I think we need to recognise that and offer them our solidarity and support. And I think one thing we need to do as well, which we haven't done enough of in recent years, is to start defending our system a bit more. And our system is the system of the West. It's based on a liberal democracy, it's based on the rule of law, it's based on the social market economy, and it's based on multinationalism, or multilateralism rather, in international affairs. And it's not a perfect system, and I know that, and we have lots of problems, but there's nobody trying to climb over walls or climb into dinghies to get into China or Russia or North Korea or Cuba or Venezuela or Iran or any of those places. And I think we need to recognise the fact that we're very fortunate to live in a social market economy, in a liberal democracy, fortunate to be part of an organisation like the European Union and the United Nations. And if anything, this attack on Ukraine should be a wake-up call for all of us to defend our system and be willing to defend it, because the system worth building is worth defending. If the European Union was worth building, it's worth defending. And if our independence was worth securing, it's also worth defending. And like you, I don't agree that we should increase defence spending up to €3 billion. I think that would be too much. There are other priorities and other demands. But I do think we need to increase defence spending. We need to pay our military personnel more. We need better equipment. We need to be able to guard our own seas. We need to be able to have radar over our own airspace. And the assumption that we've made for 70 years now is that nobody would attack us because we're a country that's neutral militarily. Ukraine was neutral militarily. It wasn't part of any military alliance. It was attacked because it was politically part of the West, or at least wanted to be politically part of the West. And we make the assumption that even if we are attacked, the British and the Americans will come and save us anyway. And I'm not sure that's the kind of assumption a sovereign country like ours should make.
Well, Taoiseach, I think this debate is underway and it will continue over the next weeks and months, and we look forward to participating in that debate fully. I think part of the debate has to be the question of the links that European governments had with the Putin regime and their supporters, including the blind eye that was turned in this country. I mean, €118 billion worth of wealth sloshing through the IFSC from Russian entities between 2005 and 2017. Dirty money laundered by oligarchs, etc. Within a 15-minute walk of here in Leinster House. Why was a blind eye turned to this? Did the government and government ministers really think that this was just pensioner savings or maybe communion money that was being kept in the IFSC? In reality, we would argue that the only consistent opponents of Putin and Russian gangster oligarch capitalism down through the years has been the socialist left. So this is part of the debate. We look forward to engaging in that debate, and we're confident that our ideas will get a strong echo among ordinary Irish people.
Thanks, Deputy. I think far too many people in the West, including a lot of Western European governments, turned a blind eye to President Putin for too long. And we saw that after the Crimea crisis, that sent out a message to him that the West was weak. He started making his plans, I'd say, around about then, to try and take the rest of the Ukraine. But I don't think it's just about governments or government ministers, Deputy. I think anyone who has expressed pro-Putin sentiments or has been an apologist for Putin now has questions to answer. And there are a lot of them in Ireland, some in this House, many outside of this House. They should now be held to account for statements they made in the past that were soft on the Russian regime and apologists for Putin in any way. And quite a number of them would consider themselves to be part of the socialist left. I don't mean you, but there's quite a number of people who I could identify who would consider themselves to be socialists or part of the socialist left, who have appeared on Russia Today, who are apologists for Putin, who consistently have made statements that are supportive of that regime and that man, and they need to be held to account, and now.